What's good, YouTube? I'm LG. This is L.Y.T.E TV, and thank you for tuning in with me for another. A little bit more on a more serious note this time. Gotta address, we got a lot going on, people. The event that took place in New Orleans, we got Tesla trucks blowing up in front of the presidential estates. We got assassination attempts. Even when I was younger, I don't remember all these crazy events or even assassination attempts on presidents' lives. Now they say, oh, it happens more than you all know and all this and everything, but I guess now we just hear more of the stories. Is that what it is? Is that what they're trying to tell us? Is that why now we hear more of these terrible things? Or are more terrible things just happening? They might have a connection between the two events now. We got somebody pushing people in front of subway trains. Like my people. Light God, light God, light God. Love your temple eternal. Because if you don't, someone or something else will for you. Get control of your lives back, people. We have to. But either way it go, I don't want to keep holding y'all. We got to get to the mantra first. And there's a reason why I say this. Let me know in the comments. Just say, I'm here. If you were able to wake up today, let's start there. If you were able to brush your teeth because it's a little tart. Let's start there. And because so many people didn't make it, and possibly many more as we go along, if you were able to put your feet on God's beautiful ground and put that body into motion, let's start there. Now I don't want to keep holding y'all too much longer. First of all, we're going to start with people need answers. I'll bring it to you first and raw. Questions mounting over New Orleans security risks after deadly attack. Let's see what the people got to say about what's going on and maybe the questions of how they are feeling right now. Let's check it out, people.
New Orleans officials were warned way back in 2019 about the faulty bollards, which were under repair when this attack happened. What's your view of this barricade issue and why there wasn't a better contingency plan in place?
Well, it seems clear the city has not answered that question either. I mean, these types of reports indicate that this is a 4 or 5 year problem in the development. Having spent 25 years of my career in New Orleans and walking a beat on Bourbon Street, the police department can only operate with the equipment that it's given after it's asked for. So I think the city of New Orleans has some questions to answer for the public.
Why weren't those big, hard barriers up?
It's hard to know because nobody seems to be saying right now. The first press conference was difficult to understand some of the messaging that was going on. I think the continued questions of where were these, how were they paid for, when did they not work, when did they work, and why weren't they being used? The Super Bowl is a different SEER level response from the federal government. The Sugar Bowl is not quite as high as a response. Nonetheless, the public expects to be safe.
Frank, regarding the attack.
All right. See, this is our problem right here. I don't know if my man meant it this way, but he said the Sugar Bowl people not as important as the Super Bowl people. That's pretty much what he said. Not trying to say, but I'm gonna break it down into dummy terms. That's all I understand. You know what I'm saying? So shit. Either way it go, while we keep putting one group of people over another group of people, and we expect change or some betterment, where's the understanding? Let's get back to it.
The attacker's route during this specific attack. We know it started when he drove around a police car onto the sidewalk to enter Bourbon Street. Are there procedures in place to respond immediately in a scenario like this? And does it look like those types of procedures were implemented?
It's hard to tell right now. There needs to be a comprehensive, independent investigation, whether that's from the state authorities or whether they hire a reputable private firm to come in and do the after action. The people of the state need to reestablish their belief in the credibility of the department. And right now, I don't think that's there. So you can have protocols to do rapid response. There may be rapid response teams right there, likely were. The question is whether they implement the protocol. Having them in place and executing on the protocol are two different things. And I think some of the superintendents, the current superintendent's responses to, hey, we're not about fixing blame, and no, I didn't know we had these L-shaped Archer barriers. That's not good.
There's a triangle in that perimeter.
Need some answers. And I wanted, with all of this kind of analysis, I think it's really important to point out that the officers on the street, on the scene, that ran toward the gunshots, ran toward the problem, and then neutralized the suspect need to be awarded. That should not be lost. Their heroism should not be lost as we discuss and critique what happened.
That's a good point, and there were a lot of heroes that day. Could have been even worse, sadly. Frank, let's talk about the suspect and this attacker, I should say. We are learning more and more about his background. NBC News really paints a picture of someone who went from a model soldier to ISIS supporter. We know he did have marriage troubles. He had financial troubles. For investigators in the intel community, how important is...
I'm going to pause this right here, y'all. Check this out. U.S. citizen from Texas. Army veteran, deployed to Afghanistan in 2009. Twice divorced. Real estate license expired in 2023. Faced thousands in credit card debt. Company lost $28,000 in 2021. Okay. Now I understand my man's name. Shamsuddin Jabbar. But if you didn't know this man's name, and if you didn't see his face, don't we all know somebody that been through this life before? Been to the military, been divorced twice, tried to sell real estate, lost thousands, now he in hella debt. So now I'm kind of confused my damn self. Are we dealing with terrorist attacks? Or are we dealing with everyday Americans that's been trying and busting their ass, and they don't have any other fucking alternative to go to, and they are taking extreme measures? What is really going on? Let me know in the comments.
Is it to determine the source of his radicalization, and how will that information be used?
We've got a homegrown violent extremism problem in the United States. So every one of these helps the intelligence and law enforcement community understand what's happening out there. There are some of the commonalities with him, and then there are some things that are different. Many people think once they hear, 100% driven by ISIS motivation, they kind of say, okay, that's the end of the story. But the reality is that there's a lot more to every story of radicalization. It's not just becoming a true believer in a cause. If you're willing to martyr yourself for something, there's a whole lot of other things going on in your life. And you mentioned some of them. Pretty severe financial problems, 2 divorces, a restraining order. Even if you study the 9/11 hijackers, you see, yes, they were true believers, but why did they decide to really give up their lives? And you find
that's the question.
Bleak prospects in their future, no jobs in their future, economic issues. That's all a factor that helps the community understand how we might mitigate or prevent this moving forward.
And that's why it's so confusing.
Here's what the younger brother of the attacker told our affiliate KPRC. Listen.
It's a complete curveball to, how I know him, and how I remember him. The way I know him is being kind, loving.
Wow. Pardon me. Does this not sound like every time something bad like this happens, This is not the person I knew. I don't know where they got this from. I don't know what happened. So, are we dealing with sleeper cells in most of us? Or is there more to the story? Let's get back to it.
Loving, caring, compassionate, charismatic, funny, smart. I understand, people want answers, but we're just as puzzled as the rest of the world.
Ron, someone who on the surface appears to be your usual upstanding citizen, described here as kind, loving, caring, but then behind the scenes becomes radicalized. How does law enforcement
every time we hear these stories
scent? Can you keep someone like this from falling through the cracks?
Well, we see this happen in so many different types of crimes in America, and this one it's highlighted around the issue of ISIS, etc. When people make these decisions to harm others, there may be some clues. We've often learned of a term called leakage, where people will start messaging to friends, family, or others that they may be contemplating danger against themselves or others. Much of that's done at a level not in front of local law enforcement. When you think about the ubiquitousness of the dark web, of the internet, of social media, local law enforcement, and I was also a state police chief at one time, we have some resources and fusion centers which came after 911, but a lot of this internet diving to understand the difference between protected free speech and speech that intimates that someone is going to hurt themselves or other is what makes the difference for law enforcement at either federal, state, or local level to engage this person. And there's a lot of opportunity to engage them when they say or leak something that would indicate on any forum that they intend to hurt themselves or others.
On that note right there, my people, if you're going through something, which we all are, let me give you something to think about. STOP. You can put whatever words you want behind those letters. But STOP, STOP, STOP. Before we make these radical decisions, stop. Now I'm going to bring y'all a whole nother part to this story.
In Texas, the agency releasing this poster showing images of him walking around New Orleans just over an hour before the deadly attack. He also placed a blue and white cooler with an explosive device inside near the intersection of Bourbon and Orleans streets. Photos from inside Jabbar's Texas trailer home show a bomb-making table and a Quran open to a page about martyrdom. The FBI telling lawmakers yesterday they had no prior information about Jabbar and he was on no terror watch list. Joining me now, former FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, former New Jersey Police Lieutenant, and former Office of Naval Intelligence, Steve Rogers. And Steve, I'm so glad you're here with us this morning. I want you to give us your initial take on everything we have learned so far about him.
And remember, I'm LG. This is L.Y.T.E. And subscribe. Hit the notifications. Get notified when I drop, because I'm dropping that heat.
And really talk about the possible, radicalization of him by either ISIS itself or whether that was an inspiration from ISIS.
Well, we have a few things to look at here. I could tell you I've been speaking with a number of law enforcement officers who are following this case. I've got to tell you, the overwhelming number of us feel that it's impossible. It's got to be impossible within a 24 to 48 hour period from the start of this incident that the FBI came up with these conclusions. For example, that he didn't act alone. I mean, this has to be an extensive investigation. They usually take, if not a few weeks, a month or so. And a lot of people have to be interviewed. You have to have a forensic analysis of all the electronic equipment. Where is there any money involved from a foreign entity? So the fact of the matter is that I don't have much confidence in the FBI at this point. And by the way, if you remember, they first came out and said there was no terrorist connection. Then they said it was a terrorist attack. A lot of confusion down there. So that's something that they're going to have to get their act together. But I believe, and most of my colleagues believe, that at the very least, there were other people involved in the planning of this, if not executing it on the day that he did this.
You know what, Steve? It's interesting you say this because you're picking up on something that Senator
Man, my dude walking around look like an average person, average Joe. Oh, for real, like average person out here going through something, struggling through life. That's what I'm saying. It could be anybody. It could be anyone. Be careful. This shit is getting crazy. I'm being for real. STOP, my people. STOP. STOP. Stop before you do something radical.
Senator Marsha Blackburn said is the fact that you had a reporter from the New York Post in Houston go to his home before the FBI got there. They didn't go to his home until 1 p.m. that day. And she's saying that it's disgraceful that the FBI was so behind the ball. Never mind the fact that they initially said that this was not a terror event. And then the New Orleans mayor said, absolutely, yes, it was, in the same press conference. So that's
those
one question
confusing words
for you.
again. That's why everybody up in an uproar.
The culture at the FBI, change in leadership. I mean, what is going on at the FBI? Because Kash Patel has been nominated now to take over. Chris Wray is retiring, as we know, leaving. What is going on in the functioning of the FBI? Because this investigation from the get-go, there's been a lot of criticism against the agency.
Look, training has been changed from strategic training, tactical training, training on how to really complete thorough investigations to DEI. That has devastated the FBI. It has devastated law enforcement across the country. It has done no good to help the people of this country remain safe and secure. The FBI has to get back to its main mission, and that is to investigate crimes and do those investigations.
Keeping us safe.
Procedures to prevent things like this from
Keep
happening.
their ass out this petty shit and keep us safe as a nation.
Joining the FBI like they used to look when I was a kid. I remember J. Edgar Hoover in those days, and watching the FBI on TV, you'd want to run to become an FBI agent. That's not happening anymore, and that is a ripple and chilling effect in every law enforcement agency in the United States of America. The agents on the field, God bless them, the men and women out there are trying to do the best they could. But when you speak to a lot of them, morale is bad. They can't wait to retire, just like the local law enforcement officers can't wait to retire.
That's unfortunate because there's so many good agents within the FBI.
Whoa. We ain't gonna overlook that, what he just said. I might even play that back right there. We ain't gonna overlook what my man just said right there. Listen to what he says, clearly, word for word.
Trying to do the best they could. But when you speak to a lot of them, morale is bad. They can't wait to retire, just like the local law enforcement officers can't wait to retire.
That's unfortunate because there's so many good agents.
They can't wait to get out of there.
The FBI and many hardworking.
How bad is it really out in this world?
They want to leave and retire is unfortunate. But, you know, also,
what is it they ain't telling us?
We're in a very precarious position in time right now in our nation. We've had, years of an open border. We don't know who has been coming across that border, whether it's gotaways. We know that we have seen many on the terror watch list that have been identified as crossing through the southern border. That's one issue. James Carafano writes on FoxNews.com that, quote, more Islamist terror is coming and we are woefully unprepared. Your response?
Well, we are woefully unprepared. Back when I was on the Joint Terrorism Task Force, our daily concern, major concern, was terrorists crossing that border, coming into the United States, perhaps scattering all over our country, and then meeting up as terrorist cells. And I always said, this isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I'm sad to say that, well, when may be now. This may be the beginning of something that we're going to have to really address moving forward. But we're not prepared right now. We need more electronic surveillance. We need more human resources on the ground.
What do you mean? What do you mean we not prepared for this shit? What have y'all been doing with our tax dollars, bro? I'm sick of this shit, bro. We out here busting our ass, bro. Like blood, sweat, and tears literally into the motherfucking concrete. I'm sorry, excuse my language, but this shit is getting crazy. And we not prepared for this war? So what y'all been preparing for? I ain't got time for the bull, bruh. I need to know I'm good. If not, we can protect ourselves.
Leadership in the FBI that's going to do, as I said earlier, what they are trained to do or should be trained to do, and that is to protect the American people.
Okay, Steve, so let's talk about what happened in Las Vegas.
Well, we can learn to protect
police have identified
ourselves.
37-year-old, an active duty Green Beret, Matthew Livelsberger from Colorado. He was the driver of the Cybertruck that exploded New Year's Day in front of Trump International Hotel. Officials say he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head before the explosion. The FBI is claiming there's no definitive link between this incident and the deadly New Orleans terror attack, but there are some eerie similarities here. Here's more from the Las Vegas police. Watch.
And there are a number of things in this case that are similar to the attack in New Orleans. We do know that our subject here served in the military. In fact, he's a current member of the military. Both of the subjects served at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. What we do know about that is it's a very large military base, and we have no record that they served in the same unit or even at the same years.
But there's a possibility what he's saying.
They served in Afghanistan in 2009. We don't have any evidence that they were in the same province in Afghanistan, the same location, or the same unit. Again,
I'm glad he spoke on this. This has been drilling my brain. Paul. If these two cats are connected in these ways, do we need to be worried about the rest of the unit? I'm just saying. Because if these two people have these many connections in these many ways, who else is part of the group? Will we ever find out?
Something else that remains under investigation.
And federal agents, local police are now trying to determine the motive behind the explosion. His family says he was a big Trump supporter who loved his time in the military. Steve, what is your reaction to this?
Well, the officer we just heard from laid out the reason why the FBI should have never come to the conclusion the way they did, because those are dots that are being connected. Look, you've got these two individuals there in the Army. They're in the same unit. I understand it was reported that they even rented these vehicles through the same portico. So the fact of the matter is there's a lot of similarities here. And here you got the terrorists in Las Vegas. They blow up the car in front of
way
Trump
too many
Tower,
connections.
Tesla, Elon Musk. I mean, and then you've got the other guy over there in New Orleans creating havoc all over the place. So, I believe these are connected. And again, the FBI, they're just too quick to come to the microphone. And I've got to tell you, that was rather upsetting to see those pressers in New Orleans. Every politician down there wanted to come to the mic, get their 15 minutes of fame when law enforcement should have taken control down there like they did in Las Vegas. The people deserve answers, but the answers have to be credible and they have to be factual.
Okay. And Steve, I just want to clarify that the two different gentlemen from these two attacks
should like fireworks.
They were in the same unit, but there was an overlap. It looks like at Fort Bragg, but that's about it. So anyway, it looks like there is a separation here. But really quick,
I mean, what kind of explosion is that?
And these attacks were obtained through this car rental app Turo. It's very common. It's actually been around since 2009. So the company says they are talking to law enforcement, but both Gerard and Livelsberger did not have any criminal backgrounds that would have identified them as security threats. And Turo says every renter is screened through a multi-layered data science-based trust and safety process. So is there anything that could have been caught here with regards to the app? It doesn't seem so, but what is your reaction?
They say they watch this all the time anyway.
It doesn't seem so, but one thing that rather astonishes me is that one of these individuals, I believe it was the one in New Orleans, for example, had videos posted. We always tell people, you see something, say something. I find it hard to believe that no one else saw those videos. Somebody should have said something. And then again, we get back to our electronic surveillance.
I'm be real. On this see something, say something shit, I'm just as bad. There's been a house on my block. I think water been running out of the damn house for over 2 weeks probably. And it's the only house on the block that stays wet. The driveway and shit, right? Now I'm thinking other people see this shit, but ain't nobody saying nothing. I'm like, the house could be flooding out. Anything could be going on in this home, right? But ain't nobody saying nothing. So if that can slip by, I can see how this other shit could. Just saying.
especially on the internet, from our law enforcement agencies. So there are a lot of missing links here, a lot of questions that need to be answered. But at the end of the day, the FBI was too quick to come to the microphone and draw conclusions. They need to do a little bit more investigating before they feed the American people information.
Wow. Right now, that's where we at, y'all. That's the recap for the moment. That's the newest recap where we at. They still don't want to tell us anything. I'm sure they definitely know more about this situation, but they probably don't want us up in an uproar. It's like I said, everybody stay calm, maintain. Always T2G. If you don't know, that's train to go. But either way it goes, these words is gonna mean more than ever at this point in time. Stay less stress, stay blessed, and let God take care of the rest. Love y'all. Peace.